In the heart of the 16th century, the bustling Portuguese city of Lisbon became the stage for an enigmatic figure whose legend spans centuries. Known as Madalena the Witch or Freyja Madalena, she was both feared and revered by the townsfolk. Draped in robes adorned with symbols no one could decipher, Madalena moved through the streets with an aura of mystery and power. Some whispered that she could summon storms with a wave of her hand. Others claimed she could heal the sick with nothing more than a touch. But who was Madalena, truly? Madalena's origin was shrouded in secrecy. She appeared in Lisbon seemingly out of nowhere, a ghost from a forgotten past. It was said that her knowledge of herbs and potions was unparalleled, and she was rumored to be several centuries old. Her eyes, a piercing shade of green, seemed to see through people, discerning their deepest fears and desires. One evening, a terrible storm rocked Lisbon. The sky darkened, and winds howled through the narrow streets. The calm before the storm was marked by an unusual request from Madalena. She approached the city's elders, requesting access to the highest tower in the city. "The storm seeks a soul," she told them cryptically. "I intend to guide it away." Skeptical but desperate, the elders granted her request. As she ascended, the storm intensified, almost as if it were trying to deter her. From the tower, Madalena began to chant in a language lost to time. As her voice rose, the winds seemed to listen. Hours passed, and as dawn broke, the storm began to abate. When the townspeople awoke, they found their city remarkably unscathed. From that day forward, her reputation was solidified. However, her powers also brought fear. Whispers of witchcraft trickled through the town, and the church, threatened by her influence, demanded she be put on trial for heresy. Freyja Madalena was known for her ability to communicate with the otherworld and was considered a powerful witch capable of summoning spirits and predicting the future. Her reputation was renowned, and villagers from miles around would come to seek her wisdom and guidance. Her cottage stood at the edge of the dense, ancient forest, surrounded by lush greenery and a faint shimmer of enchantment that was always present. Freyja herself was a tall, willowy woman with striking green eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe. Her voice was soft but carried an unmistakable authority. One evening, a young man named Edgar came to her in desperate need. His sister had fallen gravely ill, and no doctor in the village could explain or cure her ailment. Edgar, in his desperation, had heard whispers of Freyja's abilities and hoped that she could help. Freyja welcomed him into her cottage, where the air was thick with the scent of herbs and candle wax. She listened intently as Edgar spoke, her eyes never leaving his face. She agreed to help and began to prepare for the ritual. As the moon reached its zenith, Freyja began her incantations. The room filled with an otherworldly glow, and the air hummed with energy. Spirits were summoned and consulted. After what seemed like hours, Freyja opened her eyes and looked at Edgar. "Your sister is afflicted by a restless spirit that has taken residence in her body," she said. In a quaint village nestled between undulating hills and thick, whispering forests, lived a woman named Alara. She was no ordinary villager. She was known far and wide for her extraordinary gifts. People from all over Europe would come to her for her magical prophecies or to seek cures for their ailments using her unconventional methods. Alara had a mysterious aura about her, amplified by her striking green eyes and long, silver hair. Her small cottage, filled with shelves of peculiar bottles, herbs, and ancient books, became a beacon for those in distress. One stormy night, a desperate mother arrived with her feverish child, seeking a remedy that no doctor had been able to provide. Alara welcomed the pair into her cottage, where the aroma of incense mingled with the scent of damp earth. She listened intently, her eyes closed, as though she were communicating with forces beyond the visible realm. Gently, she prepared a concoction with ingredients that seemed random to the untrained eye, but held potent healing properties. The child drank the potion and, within hours, the fever broke. Word of Alera's miraculous abilities spread like wildfire. Kings and beggars alike sought her wisdom and aid. Yet, not everyone believed in her powers. A young skeptic named Thomas decided to uncover the truth. He disguised himself as a pauper, requesting Alera's help for an invented problem. Alera, however, saw through his ruse immediately. She smiled and handed him a vial, saying only, "This will reveal your true quest." Puzzled, Thomas hesitated, but eventually drank the contents. Instantly, his vision blurred, and he was plunged into a vivid dream where he faced his deepest fears and desires. When he awoke, Alera's cottage seemed to glow with an ethereal light, and he felt an indescribable sense of clarity. He realized that Alera's magic wasn't just in the herbs and potions, but in the deeper understanding of the human soul. He returned to the village, forever changed. Alera continued her work, helping those in need and guiding lost souls. She remained an enigma, a symbol of hope, and a guardian of ancient wisdom. And so, in the quiet village, the legend of Alera, the enigmatic healer, endured for generations to come. In the quiet village of Bramblewood, Alera was renowned for her gifts. She had an uncanny ability to heal the sick, mend broken bones, and calm troubled minds with a mere touch. Her fame spread beyond the borders of Bramblewood, attracting visitors from distant lands. Some saw her as a miracle worker, while others whispered that she was a witch. As her notoriety grew, so did the unease among the villagers. It was a time when the Catholic Church's influence was all-encompassing, and whispers of witchcraft were not taken lightly. The Church had launched an unforgiving crusade against anything it deemed heretical. One fateful day, the village received a visitor, Inquisitor Matthias. Clad in dark robes and flanked by armed men, his presence was anything but reassuring. Matthias made his purpose clear. He had come to root out heresy and protect the village from the devil's influence. Alera, sensing the impending danger, sought refuge in the forest that bordered Bramblewood. Despite her gifts, she knew she was no match for the Church's wrath. Days turned into nights as Alera hid among the towering trees, her heart heavy with fear and uncertainty. Matthias, relentless in his pursuit, interrogated the villagers, twisting their words to fit his narrative. Fearful for their lives, some villagers falsely accused Alera of witchcraft. They spoke of strange lights emanating from her cottage, of herbs that whispered secrets, and animals that obeyed her commands. Desperation drove Alera to seek help from an old friend, Rowan, who lived deep within the forest. Rowan was a reclusive scholar, well-versed in ancient knowledge and protective spells. He offered Alera sanctuary, weaving powerful wards around his home. Yet, he knew these measures would only buy them time. In a final act of desperation, Rowan devised a plan to help Alera escape the Church's clutches for good. They would travel through the Whispering Woods, a labyrinthine forest said to be enchanted and nearly impossible to navigate. As they journeyed deeper into the woods, the trees seemed to close in, as if guiding them away from danger. Days blurred together, and exhaustion began to take its toll. But Alera's resolve remained unshaken. She knew that beyond the forest lay her only chance at freedom, a distant land where her gifts would not be feared but embraced. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they emerged from the forest's grasp. Alera and Rowan found themselves on the outskirts of a small village, far from the Church's influence. In this new land, Alera's abilities were seen as a blessing. She was able to continue her healing work, this time without fear of persecution. The villagers saw her for what she truly was, a beacon of hope and kindness. Alara had escaped the shadows of Bramblewood, but she would never forget those who had betrayed her or the friend who had risked everything to save her. She vowed to use her gifts for good, to bring light to those lost in darkness, and to never let fear govern her life again. In the heart of a small, obscure village, whispers of Madalena's enigmatic powers grew louder with each passing day. Her ability to heal the gravely ill with a mere touch and predict calamities with unnerving accuracy had made her both revered and feared among the villagers. Rumors swirled, weaving intricate tales of how she had come to possess such unparalleled abilities. Some claimed that she was the last descendant of an ancient sorcerer lineage, while others were convinced she had bartered her soul to the devil himself. Madalena's presence was both a blessing and a curse. While many sought her help in desperate times, there was an unspoken terror shadowing her every move. Eyes would follow her, and hushed conversations would break out whenever she walked by. Her midnight strolls to the ancient oak at the edge of the forest became the fodder for the villagers' suspicions. They believed she engaged in dark rituals there, summoning forces unknown. One particularly cold evening, a group of villagers decided to uncover the truth. Led by Tomas, a fervently religious man who believed it was his divine duty to protect the village, they set out to follow Madalena. Hidden behind thick bushes, they watched as she approached the ancient oak, moonlight casting an eerie glow on the scene. To their astonishment, she knelt and began to softly recite words in a language they could not understand. As the villagers' impatience grew, Tomas stepped forward, brandishing a crude wooden cross. "Madalena, your dark deeds end tonight," he shouted. Startled, Madalena looked up, her pale eyes gleaming in the moonlight. In the heart of a dense, shadowy forest stood an old, weather-beaten house where few dared to tread. The structure was cloaked in an aura of mystery, its creeping ivy and moss-covered stones whispering secrets to those who passed by. Within this enigmatic abode lived an equally mysterious woman, known only to the local villagers as Alara. Alara had a presence that was both captivating and unnerving. Her long, silver hair cascaded down her back, contrasting with her piercing green eyes that seemed to hold the wisdom of centuries. She was often seen surrounded by a host of black cats, their eyes glowing like embers in the night. Strange symbols and runes adorned the walls of her home, adding to the air of enigma that enveloped her. The villagers spoke in hushed tones of Alara's peculiar habits. Some said she could commune with the spirits of the forest, while others believed she was a guardian of ancient, arcane knowledge. She rarely ventured into the village, and when she did, it was usually under the cover of twilight, her presence heralding whispers and curious glances. One rainy evening, a young boy named Tomas, driven by curiosity and a thirst for adventure, decided to uncover the truth behind Alara's mystique. Armed with only a lantern and a heart full of determination, he ventured into the forest, following the winding path to her abode. As Tomas approached the house, he felt a strange mix of fear and excitement. The air seemed to thicken, and the forest grew even darker, as if the very trees were conspiring to keep Alara's secrets safe. He hesitated but pressed on, his lantern casting flickering shadows on the path. Upon reaching the house, Tomas was greeted by the soft meows of the black cats and the gentle glow of candlelight pouring through the windows. Madalena was a complex figure. Some people claimed she had a kind heart and would help the poor and sick without charge, while others saw her as a dangerous threat. In the small town of St. Arbor, whispers about Madalena filled the air like the scent of jasmine in spring. Her bewitching eyes and enigmatic smile only added to the aura of mystery surrounding her. Some nights, residents swore they saw her roaming the woods, speaking in tongues to ancient spirits. She lived in a quaint cottage on the outskirts, where she brewed her herbal remedies. For the townsfolk who benefited from her potions and ointments, Madalena was a godsend. Her doors were always open, and her services came without a fee for those who couldn't afford them. Children with high fevers, elderly with aching joints, and even the occasional ailing animal found solace in her care. "Madalena saved my little Mary," said Mrs. Thompson one afternoon at the marketplace, her eyes brimming with gratitude. She hadn't slept for days and was burning with fever. No doctor could help, but Madalena did. However, for every grateful soul, there was someone ready to condemn her. The pastor, Father Vincent, was her most vocal critic. He often warned his congregation about the dark arts and blasphemous deeds he attributed to her. "It's sorcery," he bellowed during his Sunday sermons. "She consorts with the devil. Beware of her charms." The climax of the growing tension occurred during the annual Harvest Festival. As people danced and children played, a dark cloud seemed to loom over the joyous event. Father Vincent had orchestrated a public trial, claiming that Madalena had cursed the crop fields, resulting in a poor harvest season. She stood in the town square, facing a sea of accusing eyes. "I only aim to help," Madalena said calmly, her steady gaze never wavering. Despite her plea, the crowd grew restless, the atmosphere crackling with electricity. The trial proceeded, and just as the situation appeared to turn against her, an unexpected twist unfolded. From the edge of the crowd, little Mary emerged, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. She walked up to Madalena and offered her the flowers, a simple yet powerful act. "Madalena is our blessing," she said, her voice breaking the tension. The crowd fell silent. It was a moment of reckoning. Slowly, one by one, others who had been touched by Madalena's kindness stepped forward, creating a ripple of support. Father Vincent's accusations began to lose their weight in the face of overwhelming evidence of her goodness. The trial ended abruptly, and Madalena was allowed to return to her cottage. Her reputation, though still complex, became more balanced. Some continued to view her with suspicion, but many more recognized the good she had done. And so, Madalena continued her life, helping those in need while remaining an enigma, a paradox that the town of St. Arbor learned to live with. Fears of Madalena's influence on society grew, and many religious and political leaders in Lisbon saw her as a danger to the city's stability. Madalena was an enigmatic figure, known for her outspoken and radical ideas that seemed to challenge the very fabric of the established order. She advocated for equal rights, questioned religious doctrines, and promoted scientific thinking. Her charisma and persuasive speeches drew large crowds, and her followers saw her as a beacon of hope in a city plagued by corruption and inequality. However, those in power viewed her as a threat. Bishop Enrique, a staunch traditionalist, led a campaign to discredit her, declaring that her ideas were heretical and dangerous. Mayor Joaquim, fearing an uprising, authorized the use of force to disperse her gatherings. Despite the growing pressure, Madalena remained resolute. One evening, she held a clandestine meeting with her closest allies in a dimly lit tavern. "We must not let fear dictate our actions," she said passionately. "We are fighting for a just cause." The tension in the room was palpable, but so was the determination. The authorities soon caught wind of the meeting and stormed the tavern. In the chaos, Madalena was captured and thrown into a dark, damp cell beneath the city. Her trial was swift, and she was sentenced to execution for inciting rebellion and spreading dangerous ideologies. On the day of her execution, a large crowd gathered. As Madalena was led to the gallows, she held her head high, her eyes scanning the faces before her. At the height of her power, Madalena was arrested on charges of practicing witchcraft and sorcery and was brought to trial. She was a striking figure, known for her keen intellect and almost ethereal beauty, which only fueled the suspicions of the townspeople. Her arrest rippled through the small village, where whispers of her mystical abilities had been whispered tightly behind closed doors for months. Among her accusers was Lord Edmund, a man whose ambition and fear of Madalena's influence had grown in tandem. He presented himself as a savior of the town, claiming the need to protect the village from her dark practices. The courtroom was packed with curious onlookers, their faces a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. The judge presiding over the case was a stern figure, unmoved by emotional pleas, but even he could not hide his fascination with Madalena. During the trial, various so-called witnesses came forward with fantastical stories of strange occurrences and inexplicable events attributed to Madalena's supposed powers. One claimed to have seen her transform into a black cat under a full moon, while another swore she could make the crops flourish overnight with a mere glance. Madalena, standing at the center of this storm, remained calm and composed. She addressed the court with clarity, dismissing the accusations as baseless fears and prejudices. Her defense was a blend of reason and subtle persuasion, pointing out the lack of concrete evidence against her. Despite her eloquence, the seeds of doubt had already been sown deep within the hearts of the townsfolk. The climax of the trial came when an unexpected witness took the stand, an elderly woman named Eliza, who had been quietly observing the proceedings. Eliza's testimony was simple yet profound. She spoke of Madalena's acts of kindness, her healing touch that had saved many lives, and her wisdom that had guided the village through difficult times. In the heart of Portugal, in a century where shadows could hide the truth, the trial of Maria dos Santos unfolded, capturing the nation's imagination. Maria, a middle-aged woman of modest means, stood accused of witchcraft, a charge that held weighty consequences. Her trial was one of the most bizarre and sensational in Portuguese history, with testimonies that swung like a pendulum between horror and defense. By day, villagers recounted eerie tales of inexplicable misfortunes, crops failing, livestock perishing, children falling ill, all traced back to Maria's supposed malevolent influence. A farmer claimed his fields turned barren after Maria once glanced at them. A blacksmith swore his forge went cold whenever she passed by. The village priest, staunch and unyielding, declared her a servant of darkness, convincing many that flames were the only solution for her sins. Yet, when night fell, whispers of a different kind spread through the cobblestone streets. Secret groups, shrouded in mystery, took up her defense. Some believed Maria possessed a misunderstood gift, not a curse. An elderly healer testified that Maria had saved her life using herbs and potions that seemed almost miraculous. A young mother tearfully recounted how Maria's remedies had cured her infant daughter when no doctor could. Among the defenders was a scholar from Lisbon, who argued with eloquence and passion that the witchcraft charges were born out of fear and ignorance, a product of societal scapegoating during troubled times. Tension gripped the courtroom, a silent spectator to the cultural clash between archaic beliefs and emerging philosophies. The trial lasted for weeks, each day more riveting than the last. The judge, a man of conflicted conscience, weighed the evidence carefully, knowing that his decision would reverberate through history. Finally, on a fog-laden morning, the verdict was delivered. Maria was declared innocent, a decision that incited both relief and outrage across the land. The courtroom erupted into chaos, with cries that mingled both joy and fury echoing through the halls. Maria dos Santos, her eyes a mix of gratitude and sorrow, walked out a free woman. Yet, the shadows of accusation would follow her, for in the minds of many, the question of her innocence remained forever unanswered, a haunting enigma in Portugal's history. The trial ended with a sentence of death by burning for Madalena, but even in her final moments, it was rumored that she cast a curse on the city. The night was heavy, filled with the acrid scent of impending doom. The townspeople gathered in the square, faces alight with the glow of torches, their eyes a mix of fear and morbid curiosity. Madalena stood defiantly, her eyes piercing into the hearts of the onlookers. "You may take my life, but you will never take my spirit," she declared, her voice echoing through the square. As the flames began to lick at her feet, she whispered words in an ancient tongue, eyes fixed on the city skyline. The crowd shuddered as a cold wind swept through the square, extinguishing torches and sending a chill down their spines. It was said that her curse was a vow of vengeance, promising misfortune and sorrow to all who had wronged her. The seasons passed, and the city began to feel the weight of her final words. Crops withered, and a plague spread through the streets. The skies turned gray, and a sense of dread settled over the people. The once thriving city was slowly crumbling from within, a shadow of its former self. Some whispered that the curse could be broken if someone with a pure heart could find Madalena's final resting place and offer a sincere apology. Many tried, but none succeeded, the curse persisting through generations. It became a dark legend, mothers warning their children to speak kindly and act justly, lest they invite Madalena's wrath. Yet, beneath the veneer of fear, a sense of hope lingered, hope that one day, the right person would come along to lift the curse and restore the city to its former glory. Until then, the tale of Madalena served as a grim reminder of the power of words and the lengths to which a heart wronged could go. The story of Freyja Madalena remains one of the most captivating and mysterious tales in Portuguese history, where facts and myths intertwine to create an unforgettable narrative. Born in the early 17th century in a small village by the shores of the Douro River, Freyja was said to possess an ethereal beauty and an enigmatic smile that bewitched all who laid eyes upon her. Her father, a humble fisherman, and her mother, a healer known for potions and remedies, provided a modest upbringing for the young Freyja. Yet, her destiny was far from ordinary. As a child, she exhibited an uncanny ability to predict events, from storms ravaging the coast to the fortunes of her neighbors. The villagers soon regarded her as a seer, and her fame spread beyond the confines of their small hamlet. Legends tell of a fateful night when a foreign ship anchored by the village, its crew in desperate need of supplies and rest. Among them was Captain Ricardo de Souza, a man whose heart had been hardened by years of perilous voyages. Upon meeting Freyja, he was captivated, not just by her beauty, but by her aura of wisdom and mystery. It is said that Freyja revealed to Ricardo his deepest secrets and the path he ought to follow to find redemption. Ricardo, transformed by their encounter, left the village a changed man, destined for unknown adventures. However, Freyja's story took a darker turn when whispers of witchcraft enveloped her life. Envious eyes and superstitious minds began to see her gifts as curses. The local clergy, incited by fearful whispers, branded her a witch. Despite her efforts to prove otherwise, Freyja was arrested and faced trial. On the eve of her execution, as the moonlight bathed the village square, a sudden and mysterious fire engulfed the building where she was held. When the flames subsided, Freyja was gone, leaving no trace behind. Some claimed she transformed into a bird and soared into the night sky. Others believed she disappeared into the ether, her spirit forever haunting the banks of the Douro River. To this day, the tale of Freyja Madalena is told as both a cautionary and inspirational story, a reminder of the thin line between reverence and fear, and the enduring power of mystery.